Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everybody, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and I'm delighted to have the beautiful Katie Fetter here with me today, who is a psychotherapist. So Katie helps exhausted and overwhelmed women reclaim their sense of self. Many of us long to feel different, but we often don't realize the unconscious patterns and behaviors that are keeping us stuck. As a psychotherapist, Katie's work helps you to reclaim your sense of self. It helps you to understand who you are and why you feel the way that you do. And it's powerful and transformative, and it's a step forward so that you can reclaim your true self. So welcome, Katie.
Thank you.
So for anyone listening and isn't quite sure, did you want to explain what a psychotherapist actually is?
Yeah, sure. I get asked this a lot, actually, and I should probably have a really tight, succinct response. But I think the easiest way in is most people know what a psychiatrist is. They will have a medical degree, and they will often work with a psychologist who will work with something called the DSM manual, which is much more of a diagnostic manual. And psychotherapy is a school of psychology, but it is a much more soulful, much more, I would say, holistically informed view of the human. And I was trained with all sorts of modalities, but particularly process-orientated psychology. So that would say, look, I don't know more about you than you do. How could I possibly do that? If we've just met, or even if we've worked together for a number of hours, it's only a number of hours, but you have been you your whole life. So my job as a practitioner is to really walk alongside you and be informed by your truth. So there's less of a rank dynamic with me saying, well, okay, here's what I think is wrong, and here's where we're going, and I'm the authority here. And it's much more about me attuning to the wisdom and the intelligence that is innately held in you. So a journey with somebody like me will be different for everybody. And whilst it will be talk-based, we also work somatically in the body. And no two client journeys, and even the same client's journey, is never the same twice.
Yeah.
So I think it is a really broad, rich, and heart-centered approach to healing, actually.
Yeah, which is beautiful because you're seeing the person as a whole and seeing them for who they are, rather than trying to put them in a box and going, oh, okay, I previously saw this person and they were like that. And yes, you can pull on previous experiences, but it doesn't define that person.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, if 10 people come to me and they're all using the same word, 10 people may come and they all may say, I have anxiety. Okay, same word, but your experience of that in your body, in your thoughts, in your mind, in your gut is going to be very different. And what's underpinning that is going to be as different again. So I think it's really freeing for me as a practitioner not to pathologize. I sort of take the name and I say, okay, and I put that to one side. And then we really begin to explore, what is it that you are bringing? How can I understand how that is for you?
Yeah. So rather than, all right, let's just work on anxiety techniques, it's like, hang on. What are you experiencing? How's this showing up in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is beautiful. And I know you're really, really passionate about helping women reclaim themselves. And we started to go on this big tangent. We went, hang on, we should record this.
Yeah, hit record. Yeah.
So did you want to share with people kind of this new retreat that you've just started and, what's involved?
Oh, sure. Well, there's all sorts of things I do. I run retreats, I run programs, I do various things. But I guess the thing that, we all have that thing. There's that one thing that at 2 a.m, if somebody woke you up and started talking about that thing, no matter how tired you are, it's like, boom, yes, the light's on and I'm in, right? I'm in. For me, it is that reclamation of self. And what I mean by that is kind of, where am I in all of this? Like, I think particularly as women, we're incredibly well attuned to what do people need, how can I service it, how do I provide it, how do I prioritize it, how do I meet it, how do I excel at it, how do I do a shit ton of it, and we apply that to all of the people and all of the things and all of the roles and all of the responsibilities that we do every day. And in the main, we forgo ourselves.
Yep.
And the basic rule of human behavior, of course, is when you don't get your needs met, you're resentful. Yep. And what I see is a huge number of, I guess, sort of middle-aged women who come to a certain point in their life, and that's not an exclusive truth, but it would be an aggregated truth, who come to a point in their lives and just kind of go, wake up and go, hang on a minute, where the hell am I in all of this?
Yeah.
Amongst my partner and my kids and my job and my pets and my family and my parents and my friendships and everything else, where am I? And that,
even who am I?
At 100%, you're right. Who am I?
Yeah.
And for many of us, that journey looks something like, I need to look back and look at, where did I give myself away? Which for almost all of us is an unconscious thing, because there was a certain way that you had to be a good girl. Like, anybody listening, if I said, who did you have to be a good girl in your family of origin?
Yes.
Bang, you're going to get there right away. Okay. So you're going to do more of that and less of the other things. And usually, in order to do more of that, you have to forgo whatever it is that maybe you really wanted to say, or you were really feeling, or you were really wanting to express. And so the more we dial up the attention on everybody else, and the more we dial down and diminish and hide our own motivations, wants, desires, and then we go out into the world, and it's not until we bump up against something that demands our attention, demands our attention to retune our understanding of ourselves. And the reason why I mention the middle age is because I think that when we're young, we have a tremendous will, like, I'm going to will my way through this. And even if your soul or your heart is really weeping, it doesn't matter, because the disassociated part of you can will your way through it.
Yeah.
Right? Whether that be energetically, because you're just younger and better resourced and have less demands, whether that be, your own journey into your own truth and your own soul, which hasn't yet really fully been heard. But there does come a point for all of us that we can't lie to ourselves anymore.
No.
We can't, even if we want to. And it might be your physical health. It might be, what we call the big D's, like divorce, disaster, disease, death. Something will happen that will demand you to engage in a really honest conversation with yourself.
Yeah. And it can be, it can just be a single, like a little trigger. So even with my first marriage, I remember I was driving home with a friend, and we'd gone out, had a great night with our friends for dinner, and he was dropping me home. And he said, he put on this song, and he's like, what do you think of this? I'm like, I don't listen to this anymore. And he's like, what happened to you? You changed. Because I used to be really passionate about music and really passionate about, I used to make my friends mixtapes and CDs and things like that. And I went, just those words, he has no idea if he's listening, I don't know, but he has no idea how powerful that was. It didn't just set this catalyst in my brain going, I have changed and I don't like who I am. Who am I? There's nothing left of me anymore. I've just kept saying yes and changing myself for who I was. Yeah. And that for me was my big reclamation of self. And then I went through the D's.
Yeah. And that's, but the thing is, it's such an interesting point that you raise, because I liken it to, like, the self-abandonment piece, I think, is for most of us hidden, right? We never consciously say, oh, it's just too difficult and too uncomfortable to be here as myself. particularly in childhood. So the unconscious body goes, I gotcha. You just give me that. I'm going to hide it from you. You'll never know. No one else will ever know. And we're good, right?
Yeah.
Until we're not. Or maybe it wasn't like that for you. Maybe at one point you did have a really robust sense of self. And then you find yourself in the car going, that's right. Where did the part of me that was passionate about this thing go? And at that point, I think it's a bit like, you know how your nails grow or how your hair grows? Like if you were to watch your hand and we sit and stare at them for weeks, you're never going to see a change because it's so slow. But make no mistake, like the frequency, the intensity, the severity of that self-abandonment is ever increasing subtly and slowly in the background. And it isn't till one day you look down, sticking with the same analogy and going, goodness gracious, they need a cut.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
Even when you watch kids grow, you think, like, it's almost like they feel like they grew overnight. Sometimes they do.
Yeah.
You know, and then you just like, oh my goodness, those shorts look like tiny mini shorts on you all of a sudden, you know, and it's just like, oh, okay, when did that happen? Or, you know, what, like, oh, you're not that anymore. Or, you know, and it's fun having kids because you see them stepping into their independence and trying to claim their soul purpose and their light and who they are. And if you let them be, it's interesting to watch how that evolves and that sort of thing. But then somewhere along the line, we squish that down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if someone was to come and work with you and you've said a bit about how you do that somatic movement and how you bring in talk therapy and things like that, what's kind of the focus of like a session? How does that work?
Well, look, I'm going to talk to this journey of reclamation of self because the truth is, as I said at the beginning, it's going to be different for everybody. But if what we're talking about, you and I, is ringing bells of recognition in anybody, then it might look like this. And before we turned the mic on, I was trying to give an analogy of how I put together the program that I'm currently running. And I was saying only recently I've started reading finance books, which is about as interesting as it sounds, but has been very helpful in my life. And essentially, you know, so again, slow learner, late starter, late bloomer. So this book essentially says, look, here's 6 core pillars of understanding. Don't worry about the financial solvency. Do these 6 things, and the compounding effect is you're going to be in the green, right? And in a similar way, if this is ringing bells for you, this journey of where am I, who am I happy, am I in alignment, what do I really think and feel? And I think I need to create a space to re-engage with, or perhaps for the first time ever, begin a relationship with myself.
And get up and have joy and passion and excitement about the day.
So what does that look like? Yeah. You know? So I would say it probably starts with looking back, because we need to understand and kind of unwind a little bit. Where, when, how, and why did I forego the truth of who I am? Where did I feel unsafe to voice my authentic needs? Where were they not met? Where did I shut it down? Where did I learn to people please, which is something that a lot of us relate to, right?
I call it nice girl syndrome.
Yeah, the nice girl syndrome. So I think it is important to understand the birthplace of that. Then as we begin to heal that, we, in the current day, look at, okay, well, if I'm to begin to grow this muscle of self-support, what does that actually sound like in conversation? And how do I hold that in a conscious and respectful way that feels aligned with my truth? So what does that actually sound like when I speak to my boss or my partner or the people around me who likely don't want you to change because it serves them very well? Like, do I want a passive appeaser, or do I want an independent differential view. I'd probably take the passive appeaser, please, if I'm in partnership with you. That suits me great, right? So, okay, so
you're not saying yes.
No, you're not saying yes. So, okay, so how do I begin to step into that shape and form in a way that feels congruent, that feels true for me? And then moving forward, how do I protect that? And the more I know myself, the more I understand the life I want to craft. And I am a huge believer in the work that we do from a healing capacity, from a therapeutic capacity. Yes, looking back. Yes, healing. Yes, reconciling. And this is where I really feel alive with the people that I work with and the women that I work with, is now let's build the foundational basis from which you can grow the future that you want. So, a lot of people think that therapy is just kind of mulling over the past and digging it all up. And yes, that is an essential part, because we can't build it on sand, right? We need to actually have cleared the skeletons in the closet. But so much of what I do is also got a real forward moving, active positivity to it, because it's also about, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go, and how can I support you to get there?
Yeah.
And that, I think, is incredibly important.
Yeah. And only once we clear away all these false notions of who we are and get a true sense of where our light is and what lights us up, then we can help plan for the future. Because otherwise you're still dragging around these things that other people want you to be, or how you, not even what other people want you to be, how you've made yourself be, because you feel that was the easiest route. Could have been the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
It could have been whatever ended up that you got that way. But now it's like, hey, here I am. And a lot of people don't know what to do with you, because they're like, oh, you've changed. It's like, no, I haven't changed. I've just rediscovered myself.
I've dropped the baggage. So there's two things here, right?
Yeah.
There's, if it were like a push and a pull, so that we can find an equilibrium. Maybe the push, or the wanting to advance and change and move forward and be in alignment, in equal importance is ensuring that whatever's going to pull you back and prohibit that is taken care of. So what I mean by that is, you came to me and I was a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And you said, look, I want to run a marathon. And I go, great, okay, you need to do this. You need to eat like this, move like this, da-da-da-da-da. And you go, great, thanks. And you walk away. We don't need to meet again, because I've already told you everything you need to do. But we all know that human behavior doesn't work like that. It's not about what we know and what we want. A lot of it is about what's blocking that from being true. And the stuff that's blocking that from being true is likely unconscious, hidden stuff, which is why you work with somebody like me. And of course, with humility, I say I can see the monkey on your back, but I can't see the monkey on mine. So I have my own therapists and supports that do that for me too.
We all need a
right?
counsel.
Everybody, look, none of this happens in a vacuum, right?
Nope.
So we're
need healing.
Yeah, of course. And that's actually a really good point. That I would be. I just want to speak to, which is nobody speaks about this with the depth of understanding and passion and motivation that I do, because they read it in a book and they think, what a lovely academic theory. I think I'll go out and teach all the women I know how to be powerful. Isn't that lovely? No, absolutely not. That is coming from the poster child of abandonment, who unknowingly went out into the world in a way that was seemingly uber confident. I mean, I worked in media for 15 years, for goodness sake, right? And it wasn't that that was untrue, but you don't know the absence of what you can't see. So I had no idea I wasn't present in all of it. You know, I was confident and having a great time, and I worked in film, and, you know, my ego was on fire, to be honest. I was like 20, 30 something. I'm like, this is great, you know? But then I walked into an abusive marriage because I didn't know. And it was actually being that frog in boiling water that eventually forced me to awaken. It was going to go one of two ways, because the last 12 months before I left, my body let me know, hey, you're not listening, so here's what we're going to do. And it went to the main circuitry, almost like a fuse box in your house, and it went off, and my adrenals went, and it went off, and my immune system went, and it went off, and I was just progressively collapsing. And I had this incredible doctor who sent me, for a year she played the game with me, and she sent me to St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney to check, and she sent me to this specialist over here, and she sent me this specialist over here, and eventually I had a severe allergic reaction to something that put me in a wheelchair for a few days, because my body was so fried. Yeah. It just went, I just can't take anymore, and I was not ready to look at it. Yeah. I wasn't ready to see it because it's so big, you know, because what we're talking about is, if I take the lid off that box, then I'm going to have to do something about it. Mm-hmm. And in fact, if I come into my power, if I come into my truth, if I come into what it is I really want to say and who I really want to be, there's going to be some major repercussions, because not everyone's going to come along with me. In fact, likely a lot of the people that I pulled in from the self-abandonment vibration are going to have to fall away. Yeah. Because that's not on their wish list, right?
Yeah. Even I used to say to people, because a lot of friends I had when I got divorced the first time, they all kind of just fell away, and I was like, it almost felt like they were allergic, or like they just were running away from the idea that I was getting divorced, you know. And it was just like, no, they needed to fall away. They needed to. They weren't growing with me. They weren't coming along for the ride, and that was okay.
Well, you know, it's very threatening. Yeah. Imagine that we are all locked in a room, right? We're all locked in a room, and it's hot and it's miserable. I use that analogy today because it's bloody hot.
It is so hot.
Me and Catherine are boiling. Like, I just keep lifting my hair and like zhuzhing my top. But imagine we're all stuck in a room, and it's hot and it's miserable, but it's okay because we're all stuck in it. And then I stand up and I open the door and I go, oh, there's a door. I'm going through it. Who's with me? Oh, now that's going to be majorly confronting to the other people in the room who aren't ready to walk through that door, right? Because I was fine in the hot, stuffy, uncomfortable, sticky room as long as there was no alternative. But what you're now saying is that there's another way. Yeah. And if it's true that there's another way, then I'm going to have to reflect on why I'm not choosing that. So I had the same experience actually when I left, and I remember with two friends of mine, actually, we were sat one evening, and I, of course, you know, when you have these epiphanies and you think, I've just had this unbelievable lightning strike of intelligence. And so I said to my two friends, you know, I said, all the people that I've told that I'm leaving my marriage and I'm leaving Sydney and I'm moving and da-da-da-da-da, I said, all they see in it is themselves. And my two friends went, yeah. Of course. And I was like,
you're a mirror.
I was like, oh, I thought that for a second there, maybe that was my story, but no, all you were hearing was, am I happy in my marriage? Yeah.
Yeah, or am I happy in my relationship?
Yeah,
you know, and it triggers so much in people.
Yeah.
And even, you know, sometimes I find people interacting with people. But I remember once when I owned the speech clinic, one of my staff rang me up and she was in tears. She's like, oh, this mother just threw down the paperwork. She was filling in like a case history thing and told me I was a bad therapist and didn't get along with children, and she stormed out the door. And I just said to her, what part was she up to on the form? And it was about the child's behaviours. And so she didn't want to come to terms because I felt I feel just she was starting to circle them all and went, oh my gosh, there's more going on than I realized with this child. I'm just going to deflect this onto the poor therapist.
Yes,
and leave.
yeah. There's no door in here. There is no door in the room. You're wrong to go through that door. That door is dangerous. Shame on you for opening the door.
Exactly.
You know, look what you're doing to all of us.
I know.
Leave us alone with the door.
No, how dare you? And it's like that analogy too, you know, like there's like a Bluey episode even where this person sitting on a box, they talk about this story, and then he's like, I'm begging for food, and goes, have you actually opened the box? And in the box it's full of food.
Yeah,
you know, and I'm like, well, you didn't look for a different alternative, you know.
Yeah.
So often, you know, and it's not, you know, it's not us being judgmental, it's us saying we understand because we've been in that position where you have the blinkers on and you just think you're moving forward one step at a time, even though you're slowly drowning, and your body will then come and show you where it needs attention.
Well, we change because of really suffering and pain.
Yeah.
Like nobody's ever had the best day of their life and been like, let's change it up. You know, like you're having the best day of your life. Like, get on with it, enjoy it, go nuts, right? It's when you come to a point where your unhappiness becomes greater than your fear of change.
Yeah.
And in my case, my unhappiness that I was not willing to really engage with, because what that meant was, as English accent, I'm on the other side of the world. I have 2 children at that point, 2 children under 6. I've got no family here. You know, what does that look like? How is that even going to work? Where am I going to live? How am I going to fund it? Like, you know, all the practicalities that we go to. I was just like, that is just so big and so overwhelming. And, you know, if we're honest, if I pull the thread on how I got there, we're going to have to go back all the way to the birthplace of that and family of origin, and really take a long, hard look at some pretty confronting stuff. Yeah.
And a lot of women who I talk to who have chosen to leave relationships for various reasons, not reclaiming themselves or whatever it might be, they all say the same thing to me. If I knew how hard the journey was going to be, I wouldn't have started it, but I don't regret it for a second.
No, nobody regrets it, because the thing is, so, I mean, actually this kind of comes to perhaps also a lot of my offerings is, I didn't know all of this before I left. All I knew was that I was miserable and I was getting progressively less and less well.
Yeah.
And it crescendoed to such a point that it was no longer sustainable. My body just said, I'm just not going to play this game. It's farcical.
Yeah.
After that, I began to really dive deeply into how we come to be. How do I come to be? What is my relationship with myself? How do I begin that? How do I know what I want, what I need? How do I articulate it? How do I hold boundaries? Where do I stop? When do I stop feeling responsible for how other adults think, feel, and behave, and start making myself a priority? And how do I understand what healthy boundaries are, and where I begin and end and where you begin and end? And what happened was, over many years, 2 degrees in human psychology, my own clinical practice, but really the truth of how we know anything, which is in the inner chambers of our own heart.
Yeah.
I came to see that there is what I believe, imagine like a scaffolding or an infrastructure that does hold us in a way that allows us to move through the world as ourselves. And we're all completely unique, but within that understanding and that way of being and relating, each one of us can find what that is for us. And so that's what so much of my work is. That's what my 6-week program is that I began teaching again last night, Rediscovering You. A lot of my retreats, a lot of my work, because it's just an area that that's the thing that at 2 a.m, if you wake me up and you say, hey, I'm feeling really
Lost.
I'm feeling really lost, and that person has just shamed me or told me that I'm wrong. Bing! I got you, girl.
I'm ready. Let's go. Just give me a minute to pee. I'll be right
The pee can wait, to be honest. Like, that's
Yeah, I'm the same with it's like, oh yeah, you want to talk about spiritual enlightenment and how to get there and how to connect with it? Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not enlightened, but I'm journeying too. Let's do it.
But you see, this is what's possible. It doesn't really matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's spiritual enlightenment, reclamation of self, cooking, gardening, sewing, whatever it is, orthopedic surgeon. It doesn't matter. But we all deserve to live from a place where we feel more balanced, more joyful. It's more energetically sustainable. And there's a life force in us which is celebrated. And that's not to say that every minute of every day is nirvana, but many more minutes are nirvana than not.
That's it.
And for so many of us, that isn't true.
Yes.
And so it's disentangling all of the stuff that's stopping it being true for you, whatever that is for you. Might be a relationship, might be a job, might be a belief system, might be a person or a place or a paradigm that you have yourself entrenched in.
Yeah.
And the space when you release that you then make to pull in the future you, that is the greatest gift that you can give yourself. And actually, I'd go so far as to say a great travesty if you don't.
Yeah. And even it's interesting you brought this up, because I've had clients the last week or so, and they're all like just starting to find their passion, and they're like, oh, but I just get to the end of the day and then I go to do my own stuff. I was like, no. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, start your day with your passion, and that's going to fuel you through the mundane, because you know that you've done something you love and you enjoy, and you can get up tomorrow morning and start your day with that again. And these are people that have, online jobs or flexible hours or whatever it might be. I'm like, no, start with the yummy first. Why are you leaving it to the end when you're going to be exhausted and you've depleted yourself, rather than being able to fuel that passion that brings you joy and lights you up, and then can fuel you through the mundane.
Or you know what, just and also eat the elephant piece by piece. Like, the fact that you're listening to this and you've got this far into listening means that what we're talking about is resonating.
Yeah.
So for today, you've already begun. You've already begun. And maybe tomorrow there's something else that you do. And the day after that, there's something else that you do. I would say don't look at the whole, but just what can I do today to bring joy? What is the next step now for me to take that will take me one step further? And by the end of the week, of course, I'm 7 steps further, and then 14 steps further in a fortnight, and so on. And before you know it, you're telling your story.
That's it.
And you're putting your hand out to the person behind you and saying, I was also where you are now, and I can help you. Because that ultimately, there's something that happens when women come together, that when women come together from a place of heart, anything is possible, but you've got to be there in yourself first, and then you can do it for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. And it's only through our journey and our sharing that people then gain the confidence and step through that fear, because they know someone else has been through it, or someone else has been on that journey. And yes, it's not going to be identical or be, but it will be similar, or something will resonate, like you were saying. And then they can go, I can do that too. And you're like, yeah, you can. And there are people here ready to put out their hands. There's myself, there's Katie, there's all these beautiful guests I've had on my show saying, we've got this space, come in, we've got you, we can support you, and we can help you work through this. And that's part of being human too, about finding that connection, finding that counsel, finding that tribe, finding those people that are going to lift you up rather than squish you back down to, no, we don't want the new Katie, we want the old Katie.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. You're just like 100%.
100%. Not even going to add to that. I'm in agreement.
Yeah. So I guess as we wrap up our time together, often I ask our guests if we could change something in the world and just leave a message for somebody, what would it be?
Now you see, when I listen to podcasts, I always think, do they give the guest this question in advance? And for the listener, she did not. So
it's going to be authentic, people.
I think, for me, it's always going to come back to the same thing, which is that you matter. Yeah. And your life matters. Yeah. And whatever is in the way of you giving yourself permission for that to be true, I would encourage you to work with. Yeah. Because you deserve to live from a place of balance and joy and heart. And the only person ultimately who's responsible for that is you.
Yeah, 100%. So beautiful to have you today, Katie. So I will leave in the show notes for anyone that wants to get in contact with Katie or work with her or go on her retreats or start her little 6-week programs. It'll all be in the show notes. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.